Howdy, guys, and welcome to night 74 of Big Brother Season 24's overnight feeds recaps, and welcome to Cliff Notes. It's Monday morning. Y'all realize we have 1 week left of Big Brother Season 24. It is going to be over before you know it. Again, we've got 4 left as of Thursday. We're going to have 3 left. Either Brittany or Turner is heading out the door. Monte's the one that makes the decision. Right now, it is still firmly Brittany heading out. Taylor, Brittany both wanting to convince Monte. Otherwise, it hadn't happened yet. And it's led to a little bit of different discussions that we're going to talk about this morning. Lots of conversations that took place last night. Some of them more game focused than others, but we're gonna cover them all. Now, yesterday, throughout the day, we had Brittany had not told anyone that she was a hypnotherapist until just a couple of days ago. Now that she's mentioned it, she's spending a lot of time talking about all kinds of things having to do with hypnosis, with brainwaves, everything else. I was laughing at one point. Turner pretty much just kind of checked out listening to some of the technical conversations and everything. But really, Brittany talked about 2 things yesterday. She talked about hypnosis, and she talked about different ways that she could pitch to Monte to keep her come Thursday, either talking to herself or talking to Taylor primarily. So a lot of that conversation going on. A lot of talk about what type of different pitches to use, and we'll cover that in a little bit more detail in just a second. And a couple of little revelations. Brittany had talked about the fact that she was actually a hypnotherapist. Then Monte came along and revealed that he actually has a background in mechanical engineering. Well, one more revelation that happened yesterday involving these two, Taylor and Monte. Yes, Turner is now aware that the relationship between Taylor and Monte is very much an intimate situation. Turner kind of asked about it. Monte kind of confirmed it. And then later, Monte told Taylor as well, said, hey, Turner knows about it. At this point in time, does it make a difference? Yeah, probably not. These two are safe. They're both part of the final 3. So I don't think they're too upset about it. But certainly Turner is now aware of what's going on. Now, the one thing that is a little bit concerned, not necessarily come Thursday, but Turner's concerned, and rightfully so, about how this affects Monte's position with him. Remember, Turner and Monte have a final 2, but if you're hooking up with the other person that's in the final 3, you may be a little concerned about the relationship between those two if Monte's the one that makes the decision about who to drag to final 2. So Turner's brought that up yesterday, and Monte said, yeah, no, we're still final 2. We'll see if that's the case. Turner's right. It certainly is an area for concern for him. Now, things happening overnight may not be so much of a concern, but we shall find out. Now, speaking of Monte and Turner, as I mentioned, they were pretty tightly connected there for a couple of days. Not so much yesterday. Seems like they're having a little bit of a relationship issue, that throughout most of the day, I'm not even sure that Taylor realized there was an issue taking place. It was all from Monte's side. Eventually, they had a late night conversation up in the HOH room, hashing it all out, and we'll talk about that at the very end. But Monte was just upset with Taylor for several different things that was happening throughout the day yesterday. First of all, some little discussion about bidets. I think Turner was talking about it, saying it was he didn't know much about it, or it's not a big deal on the East Coast or something. Anyway, Monte said that bidets were just a West Coast thing, nothing on the East Coast at all. And Taylor argued that no, they're trendy everywhere. They're trendy where you are. You're just not into it. And so he got upset about that a little bit. Monte was talking about his 1-year-old goddaughter, and he referred to her as a toddler. And Taylor came back and said, no, toddlers don't start until they're about 2 years old, from 2 to 4. That baby is not a toddler yet. And then Monte had said something about watching his goddaughter grow. And Taylor said, you've missed 3.5 months of your goddaughter's life. You haven't really seen her grow that much. So he didn't like that. And then finally, while in the HOH room, Taylor's talking to Brittany. Monte's in the bed next to Taylor with his headphones on. He starts snoring a little bit. At that point, she pulled the headphones off his head. Apparently, or you could tell, it kind of grabbed his sunglasses as well. She pulled them off. He woke up as she did it. And then she said, oh, talk to him about disrespecting her HOH, that it was her room. And he's up there falling asleep, listening to her music. And she's saying, get your own room if you're going to do that. It was said very jokingly, but apparently he didn't take it so well. All in all very minor, very small things that really shouldn't make a big difference, but it just set Monte off, it seems like. I think it's not as much the actual things that happened. I think it's more Monte just responding to the pressure of trying to play a game and balance a relationship, especially when they're right at the end for $750,000 and you want to be friendly with this person, but they're also a competition. I think the stress of all of that, it just wore on Monte a little bit. He just kind of had his breaking point. He knows that Taylor wants to save Brittany. He also does not think that's good for his game at all. So there's some conflict between the two of them, a background that I think is just feeding into this whole deal. So not a good day for the Monte Taylor relationship. But again, they talked about it later in the evening, and we'll talk about it. So let's talk about the late night or early evening late night feeds that actually took place. I don't know, from when the episode aired on TV onwards. First of all, we had at one point Brittany talking to Monte saying, look, would you have time in the next day or two to chat a little bit? I'd love to talk with you. And Monte said, yeah, we've got quite a few days. Sure, absolutely. Later, he tells, I think it's Turner. He says, yeah, Brittany wants to talk to me. I'll humor her. I'll listen to her, but that's all I'm going to do is humor her. If Brittany wants to talk to Monte and throw her pitches at him about why she should be saved, Monte better be ready, because it is going to be a long conversation. She has got this thing worked out, planned, every bit of it in her mind, ready to go. She is going to have him talking to him for quite a long while. So that ought to be interesting. We do have at one point Brittany talking to herself in the backyard. A little bit of a conundrum. I never can get that word right. A little bit of an issue that she's trying to deal with. She's saying that she needs to not show Monte how smart she is, because she needs him to think that he can beat her in mental competition. So how do you show that I'm not very smart while explaining all this detail about why it makes so much more sense to keep me over Turner? That's the issue that she's dealing with. At one point, she starts a lot of talking between Brittany and Taylor in the workout room. Later up in the HOH room, they had several sessions up there. Taylor's telling Brittany, saying, look, you probably shouldn't use your M&Ms to try to pitch Monte. Remember, Brittany laid out these M&Ms to create all kinds of statistical charts on mental competitions, on how she did versus Monte. Every competition throughout the whole season, she worked out with all these M&Ms and everything. Taylor saying, you probably shouldn't use all those M&Ms, because if you do, it's going to show Monte that you know every single date of every single competition. It's going to show how smart you are with your memory and all of that. And it may actually create just the opposite effect of what you're wanting to achieve. Similar to what she was worried about Brittany when she was in a hammock talking as well. Brittany is wondering why Monte would want to keep someone, being Turner, who has the potential to beat him in the end. It just doesn't make any sense to them. Well, it makes sense because he knows that Turner will take him to a final two if Turner wins that last competition, and Brittany won't. Brittany's so focused on the final two jury vote and all of that, whereas Monte's still focused not just on the jury vote at the end, but what it takes to get to the final two. He's trying to cover all his bases with that as well. But Brittany's just incredulous that he would even consider keeping Turner over herself. Brittany is telling Taylor that she's worried that Monte is going to be embarrassed when he realizes that he had two chances to get out Turner and didn't do so either time. She's really fearful that he's going to be ridiculed by the Big Brother community for not keeping her over Turner. Why would you not keep the person who can't win anything over the person who's going to beat any of us in a final two jury vote? I'm not sure it's so cut and dried as Brittany is portraying, but of course she wants to put her spin on it, right? But she's thinking he's just going to be ridiculed when he gets outside, and everyone gives him such a hard time on making such a horrific decision. We'll find out. You only have one more week to go, and then you're going to find out as well, Brittany, and Monte and everyone else in there. House, a little bit boring. So they actually did get more tie-dye shirts to do. They got that plus a GoPro camera. So I guess CBS or Big Brother's wanting a few more shots and everything else. So they got some more shirts to tie dye. Monte and Turner spent a lot of time, decide they want to do it in backyard, getting everything cleaned up and ready to go. Brittany and Taylor, maybe not quite so into another evening of tie dyeing. We've got Taylor in the HOH with Brittany using, I don't know, they look more like jelly beans and M&Ms to me, but maybe they're the peanut M&Ms, I guess. But anyway, Taylor's in the HOH with Brittany, and Taylor's using the M&Ms to count jury votes of her in a final two versus everyone else that's in the house. She thinks it could come down to a single vote if it's her against Monte. Thinks it could come down to a single vote. She says something about, geez, it's Terrence. Terrence isn't going to vote for me. He could make the difference between Monte getting it versus myself. And she's saying that she maybe could win versus Brittany. She thinks that's a possibility, but she's not going to win versus Monte. They have decided that maybe Taylor can present all the charts and statistics that Brittany's put together. Again, they don't want Brittany coming off looking too smart to Monte. So they came up with the idea. Brittany will teach Taylor everything about all these statistics, all these charts. Brittany at one point says, it's a lot to learn. It's a lot of long, it's going to take a long while to get you up on all this. But Taylor is now perhaps going to come in with all the information and present it all to Monte. So it looks like it came from her instead of Brittany. Now, here's the thing. Taylor needs to be careful. I understand why Taylor would prefer to keep Brittany over Turner, because Brittany will take Taylor to the final two. Turner won't. Very similar to Monte's situation. But Taylor has to be careful because in pushing so hard to keep Brittany, she risks alienating Monte if she pushes too much, which could potentially have an effect on her when it comes down to a final two. If Monte wins this thing and she is pushed too hard, does that make it more likely that he takes Turner over herself? I think it's a possibility. I still don't know exactly which direction Monte would go. And I don't know if he does either. He certainly has told Turner he'd take Turner. He's told Taylor he'd take Taylor. We'll see if he has that option on down the road. But Taylor needs to be careful. I think she's maybe pushing just a little too hard at this point in time. All right, we've got Turner and Monte in the backyard. Monte, because of all the stuff that happened, because he's a little peeved at Taylor's point, Monte's mentioning that he moved his shower stuff out of the HOH. That's a huge thing, right? It's a little symbolism that does it, right? It's again, I don't know that Taylor even noticed it, but he's telling Turner, I moved my shower stuff out of that shower. I'll show her. So he's done that. He does say, Turner says, all right, so the big question, HOH room or car bedroom? HOH car bedroom. And Monte says, I think I'll be probably sleeping downstairs tonight instead of the HOH room. So that'll be a lot more symbolic than taking your shower stuff out of the shower, I do believe. Eventually, we do have Monte and Turner tie-dyeing some shirts and everything. Taylor and Brittany are choosing to sit out. Eventually, Brittany comes down, and I think she tie-dyed a hat or something. So she participated a little bit, but I think it was more because Big Brother asked her to than her really enjoying it. But she does it a little bit. Eventually, we get Taylor called to the diary room, and then like just a minute or two later, Brittany was called as well. And Monte and Turner immediately think something's up, saying, well, that was so quick. Do you think she really went to the diary room, or is she just up there pitching with Brittany? They're just working out everything. Well, yeah, she really got called. And yes, after they got done, they really were working together to pitch everything a little bit. And they've been doing that all day long. But here's the thing. Right before a TV episode, it is not uncommon for someone to get called into the diary room for just a 1 minute little conversation of saying, we really like what you said in this diary room session, but you kind of stumbled over one of your words. Could you say it one more time? And you do that. And next thing you know, it's in Sunday night's episode. So anyway, she got called for a very quick session, and so did Brittany. But everyone's paranoid. Everyone's nervous. Turner and Monte immediately assume that they must be up to something with such a quick conversation. Monte does mention at this point that Taylor's just been acting weird for the last few days. He's just not sure what's going on. It's not just today. Everything about her has just been a little bit weird. We do have as I said, Brittany comes down for a little while with the guys while they're tie-dyeing and stuff, while Taylor apparently is upstairs in the HOH room answering questions, online questions, things like that the HOH occasionally gets sent. And then Brittany back up to the HOH room where she and Taylor are again going over final two votes. again trying to argue to each other why keeping Brittany makes much more sense, and wondering if Brittany should show Monte the graphs. Again, does Brittany show her? Does Taylor show her? I pretty much guarantee that before Thursday, Brittany will show Monte these graphs and explain in excruciating detail all about it. She's just too proud of what she's achieved with all the statistics and everything. She will go over these charts in one form or another with Monte within the next couple of days. All right, Taylor does say that talks about it a little bit and says, well, let's not do it tonight. It's late and all that. Tomorrow, which is today in our time. She says today, we'll go over the graphs with Monte and talk about everything on Monday. And so they're wondering, once they go over all of this with Monte, how he will receive it. But they're also wondering if there's any chance that Turner would ever flip on Monte if Turner wins that final competition. If Turner does get drugged to the final three, if Turner was to win the final competition, would he flip on Monte and take Taylor instead? They're thinking it could be a possibility just because they feel like Turner's flipped on other people previously, and so he'll do whatever it needs to happen. So they think it's possible. Something else they want to work on. Brittany thinks that Turner's pitch to Monte right now is just a very basic, hey, dude, if you take me to final two, I promise to take you to final two. And so they've just got it worked out between the two of them. That's how they're going to approach it. And Brittany's saying, yeah, he's got it easy. His is an easy pitch. Mine, not so much. Well, that's true. Yeah, you got to do a lot more work to do, Brittany. All right, Monte is rehashing to Turner about Taylor's comments about his goddaughter not being a toddler yet and missing out on life. Just kind of going over everything that made him mad throughout the day. Monte is telling Turner, saying Taylor was just mean, saying that's why I put on the headphones, because she was being mean to me. So I put on the headphones just to kind of get away from everything. And then she got upset about that. She took away the headphones. She didn't even put them on herself or anything else. She just didn't want me wearing them. And he's just upset about that. Turner says, Bonnie, you deserve better than that. Turner tried to drive his own little wedge in between these two, saying, yeah, she shouldn't do that, Monte. Man, that was mean to Taylor. You deserve much better than that, Monte. Monte does say at this point, says, I'm going to talk to her about it. It's better that we talk about it, get it done, figured out. So I'll talk to her later this evening. And he does. All right. Eventually, we've got Brittany outside talking more hypnosis sessions to Monte. Everyone talking about how fast they eat. Do they eat fast? Do they eat slow? Very non-game talk. Monte talking about a podcast that he wants to do after he gets out about starting up businesses and everything. There's talk about what it would be like living in Hollywood. Brittany talking about how weird it was living in New York. Talking about traveling to Mexico as a group when they get out to see the sights and everything. Talking about who they're most excited to see once the season is over, so who they're excited to see that's been in jury, who in the jury they talk least to, who they have the least connections to. Turner's talking about van life. And so again, just a lot of casual conversations involving everything except the game of Big Brother for the most part. And then finally, we've got the conversation between Taylor and Monte taking place. It took a while, but they finally get together, not literally. No, not literally at all. Taylor is actually in the bathtub. Monte is sitting on the couch just outside the bathroom area. So they've given themselves a little bit of space and isolation and such. But she's in the bathtub while Monte talks about the things that bothered her, primarily about the goddaughter conversation. Monte's saying, look, your tone, your words were unnecessary. They were condescending. He says it was rude. It was insensitive. He's kind of laying it on here. Taylor is saying, look, I don't want to disrespect you. That's not what I was trying to do. She's saying, I have a fear of mixing emotions and games, and it makes it tough. And I absolutely believe that. It's got to be hard. I know it's hard. She's crying a little bit. She's saying this, that she just doesn't want to disrespect, that she doesn't want to mix the emotions in the game. And as a result, she may back off sometimes and seem a little standoffish because of that. She's saying that so much, though, that she's worried because so much of her game has been defined by her good and bad relationships with different guys in this house so far, and also defined by her alienation from the other women. And so she's saying that she really wants to have her own story and not be defined by the other people and the relationships that she had and all of that. She's saying that's probably part of the reason that she took off the headphones as a way to reclaim her room. She said, you and Turner are always up there, just jump into bed. You're doing this, and it's just, you do it whenever you want. And that was just my way of trying to emphasize that I'm the HOH, and this is my story, and it should be my story that doesn't involve guys, if at all possible as well. So she's trying to explain kind of what was going on in her mind as well. And at that point, Monte starts talking about, I think he starts it off by saying, look, maybe I'll tell you something that other people maybe wouldn't be willing to tell you as part of the game, but we're both safe. And, but because we've been intimate, I feel like maybe I can tell you a little bit more. He's telling Taylor, he says that, look, when you're safe in the game, you start to be less warm. You're more condescending. You're very sarcastic. You can be very cold to people. And he says, but when you're on the block, or when your game's at risk, suddenly you're warmer and you're nicer and you're just a whole different person. And he follows that up by saying, look, I won't take as personal what you said today, because I don't think it was personal. And he's saying, but it's out there, and I just wanted to let you know. And Taylor's saying that she tries not to hurt people, that she actually is very sensitive, and she's sorry if it came across like that. And Monte comes back. He says, look, if it wasn't for the TVs, I'd be responding a lot more harshly to all of this. He says he has a very low tolerance for disrespect, especially disrespect from people he is intimate with, and saying that he's not comfortable staying the night this evening. So yeah, he really spoke his mind to Taylor. Taylor saying, look, I think maybe we're just way too physical, way too fast. Monte mentions again, or I think this is when he tells Taylor, says, look, Turner already knows about it. This isn't a secret anymore. And Taylor at this point says, well, when you're saying you're not comfortable staying up here, does this mean that you don't want me to invite you up just tonight or ever again? And Monte's saying, well, I just think we just need to talk about all this stuff, get all this stuff hashed out, and then just see what happens. And at one point, Taylor says she's wondered a lot whether Monte likes her or he's just attracted to her. And Monte says, well, that's why we need to talk to figure some of this stuff out. So they're trying to figure out between them, but it's a little awkward conversation. Monte says, look, I think we need boundaries. And Taylor saying, yeah, we probably both need to just chill some on what's been going on, and just chill out a little bit and let things happen a little slower with that. Then finally, Monte says he doesn't want to leave if she has more stuff to talk about. But Taylor's saying, no, you take this. If you need space, you take that space. And they end up kissing. He comes over, gives her a little peck, a little kiss while she's still in the tub, and a little bit more of a kiss at that point in time. But Taylor says, I'm not going to ask you to spend the night. I understand you need your space. You go take your space. And so they end the conversation. Monte leaves. At that point, Taylor has a quick little conversation to herself, to the cameras. I think it's more to herself, saying, now, here we go. The insensitive B narrative. I don't like to use that word, but y'all know what I'm talking about. The insensitive B narrative. And that, yeah, I'm nice when convenient. How fantastic. She's saying, I was set up. I've been set up by this thing. And she says, I guess it's official. I am the B of the season. So she's not feeling great about the way she feels like she's being portrayed, or certainly the way that Monte has tried to portray her with this particular conversation. So again, we'll see how this affects gameplay itself. These two are safe right now. It's probably a good thing they are both safe. So they don't have to make a decision until we get into the very final rounds to see who goes to final two. Again, we'll see how this affects the relationship between these two and the relationship between Monte and Turner, assuming Turner stays, which I think is still the case. So there you have it, guys. Everyone in bed by 4 o'clock or so in the morning, and kind of a interesting evening considering there really wasn't anything going on whatsoever. It's Monday. Normally we would have a veto ceremony. Nah, not today. What's Monte going to say? Yeah, I choose not to put myself on the block. I don't even think they'll bother to have a veto ceremony. I expect Thursday, Julie Chen, not even on a live episode. Julie's just going to say, since Monte, there's no one to put on the block other than yourself, we won't even have the ceremony. Let's just go straight to the eviction. I think that's the way it's going to work. So again, the big conversations, Brittany continuing to have a whole big drawn out pitch that she wants to give to Monte, figuring out the best way to do it. sounds like it's going to happen today. And if that's the case, then I'll be back tomorrow morning. Well, I'll be back anyway, but I'll tell you everything that happened in terms of the pitch itself, whether Taylor was involved, whether Taylor tries to present it as her own argument or Brittany's. So a lot of that, and then the whole drama between Taylor and Monte, and we'll see what happens with that. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Monday. Tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, I will be doing Cliff Notes Live. If you got any questions about Big Brother, come out. It's on YouTube. Find my channel. We'll spend an hour answering all kinds of questions about Big Brother this season, everything we think is going to happen. Y'all come on out there and check me out. If not, I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Until then, my friends, SKD 143. Cheers.